Welcome to this annotated anatomy video that's going to outline the muscles of the anterior aspect of the arm. So on the screen at the moment we have two drawings. They're the same drawings that show the bones that make up the upper limb, or at least part of the upper limb. If we just detail some of these bones by looking at the left hand drawing, then we can see most superiorly we have the clavicle, and here's the sternal end of the clavicle that forms the sternoclavicular joint with the sternum. And laterally we have the acromion and its articulation with the acromial end, or the lateral end of the clavicle, forming the acromioclavicular joint. So here is the acromion of the scapula, and here we have the glenoid fossa, or the glenoid cavity, which articulates with the head of the humerus. We would have two little tubercles, a supraglenoid tubercle and an infraglenoid tubercle, either end of the glenoid fossa, and we'll detail these later on. Here we have, projecting like a beak, the coracoid process of the scapula, and here we have the lateral and the medial borders of the scapula. On the humerus we can identify the lesser and the greater tubercle, and in between these two tubercles we have the intertubercular groove, also known as the bicipital groove. We have an elevation on the lateral part of the humerus, and this is the deltoid tuberosity, and then the shaft of the humerus gives rise to the lateral and the medial epicondyles. We can see here the distal end of the humerus articulating with the radius and the ulna. Here we have the radial tuberosity, and here is the ulnar tuberosity. So primarily there's three muscles that I want to detail associated with the anterior aspect of the arm. That is Biceps Brachii, Coracobrachialis and Brachialis. So if we start with Biceps Brachii, then as its name suggests, biceps, it has two heads. There is the long head and there's the short head. The long head of biceps travels from the supraglenoid tubercle, passes through the intertubercular groove, and then gives rise to the muscle belly, which travels distally and attaches to the radial tuberosity. So here we can draw in the long head of Biceps Brachii, coming from the supraglenoid tubercle, and like I said, running through the intertubercular groove. So that's the long head of biceps. Biceps also has a short head, and this short head comes from the coracoid process of the scapula. So here we can draw in the short head of biceps. So here we have the short head of biceps. And this short head unites with the long head to form quite a large muscle belly that is Biceps Brachii. And like I said, it runs distally and attaches to the radial tuberosity. So here we can see Biceps Brachii. The second muscle I want to detail on the anterior aspect of the arm is Coracobrachialis, and as the muscle's name suggests, this also comes from the coracoid process of the scapula, and it runs to about the middle third of the humerus. So here we can see Coracobrachialis. So these two muscles, Biceps Brachii and Coracobrachialis. The third muscle I want to detail is deep to Biceps Brachii. So I'm actually going to draw this on this second diagram here on the right hand side. But it's important to remember that Brachialis is deep to Biceps Brachii. So it's underneath Biceps Brachii. Brachialis comes from the distal half of the humerus, and this muscle actually attaches to the ulnar tuberosity. It doesn't attach to the radius, it just attaches to the ulnar tuberosity. And here we can see we have Brachialis in blue. So the three muscles that are really within the anterior aspect of the forearm are Biceps Brachii, both a long head and a short head, Coracobrachialis and Brachialis. There's a final muscle that I want to detail, which is within the anterior aspect of the arm, and that's the anterior part of deltoid. So I'll just draw in the anterior aspect of deltoid, and this is the most superficial muscle that will be on these diagrams, and it lies superficial to both biceps long head, biceps short head and Coracobrachialis. It comes from the lateral third of the clavicle, so it comes from the lateral third of the clavicle and the acromion, and it runs down to the deltoid tuberosity. So here we can draw in the anterior fibres of deltoid muscle. So just to be clear, the anterior fibres here of deltoid are going to lie superficial to Biceps Brachii and Coracobrachialis. So let's just detail these muscles once more. Here we have the long head of biceps, and here we have the short head of biceps. Biceps is primarily associated with supinating the forearm, and only once when the forearm is supinated can it flex the elbow joint. Here in green we have Coracobrachialis. Coracobrachialis is involved in both flexing and adducting the shoulder joint. Here in blue we have Brachialis, and Brachialis is the chief flexor of the elbow joint. And here in purple we have the anterior fibres of deltoid, and the anterior fibres of deltoid are associated again in helping to flex and medially rotate the shoulder joint.